So why don't you start off with just introducing yourself and kind of what it is that you do, your AFSC, and kind of why you decided to enlist in the Air Force.
So first off, I'm Derrick Moreau, official title Tech Sergeant as of right now. The reason I enlisted in the Air Force, both of my parents were enlisted and they were both crew chiefs. So they were working on aircraft, and that's the life I grew up in. You know, we were moving around, Germany, overseas, back to stateside, went to Cali. We were at Pope Air Force Base for a while, and then
Wow.
they both retired out of Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. So, I mean, I saw how I grew up, and like we weren't, starving for food. We weren't struggling. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I can do that. Just a comfortable life. So I went that route and, just following in their footsteps. And that's the main reason why I joined. They provided for me and, my sister. And so I was like, okay, well, that career path I can provide for my family as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So where did you enlist out of? Was it at Scott?
yeah, I enlisted out of Scott Air Force Base. I was working there a little bit, and then graduated high school. Was in the DEP program for about 6 months till I got a job, or this job was selected. To be completely honest, when I was in the DEP program and I was trying to pick a job, they gave me a list of 8 jobs I can choose from. They said, "Hey, pick 8 jobs based off of my ASVAB scores." And at the time, vehicle operations, now ground transportation, was on there, and that's what got picked for me. So I said, okay, let's go. I was under the assumption that it was a more mechanical type of job where you're actually fixing the vehicles instead of driving. But once I got into it, it was, and I tell my students all this all the time. The first question I ask them is, who picked ground transportation? And some will raise their hand, and some won't. And the folks that don't raise their hand, I'm like, hey, I didn't pick ground transportation either. I was under the wrong impression, but I'm still here. And there's honestly a lot worse options, a lot worse jobs out there than ground transportation. So I feel lucky, counting blessings, what I got. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that was the same for me when I listed in the command post. I didn't know what command post was. I just happened to really luck out on getting a really good career field. So that's awesome that you see the 2 Tango 1 as one of those lucky career fields that people should actually seriously consider. So what on your enlistment process, what else was on your list? I'm just kind of curious.
So I try to focus more mechanical. So obviously my parents were crew chiefs, so I had crew chief on there, jet engine mechanic, at the time, vehicle operations, and then, which I assumed was vehicle maintenance. Again, that's my fault, but it was anything mechanical. And then there was one, I forget the actual technical name for it, but you get to do x-rays on like welds and see if they're like structurally sound. I had that on there.
NDI,
and that was
the non-destructive inspection.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
So I was really close to getting that. I really thought to be there.
So from the time that you got notified of your job to the time that you shipped out, what was your typical timeline?
From the time I was notified, so I was in the DEP program 6 months. I got notified, and I had 2 months to prep.
2 months,
to go to basic training.
Pretty consistent. Yeah, to kind of get all your affairs in order and everything. What was your basic training experience like?
Basic training was a shock, honestly, from how I grew up. I mean, both my parents were military, so I felt like I had an edge up. But I feel like nothing prepares you for basic training except going through it. I remember showing up like 2 days in. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, oh my goodness. But, I mean, it makes you grow up faster. Like they break you down, they build you back up, they instill discipline and accountability, like all the things you need, the basic building blocks to be in the United States Air Force, into you in basic training. So I'm happy for it.
So,
and there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that will, make the conversation like, "Hey, would you go back to basic training?" And I'm like, "No, I would not." but I'm glad I went.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I don't want to go through that again. But it makes you a better person on the back end.
yeah, yeah. 110%. So I grew up in a really small town in Oklahoma, and my self confidence was like super low. Um, so even choosing the bases I wanted to do within a 300-mile radius of my hometown in Oklahoma,
Right.
and they sent me over to Lake Neath as the first base. And I honestly, this is how naive I was of the world, as I really didn't even know where the United Kingdom was. And when they said RAF Lake Neath, my mind just got all just like, am I like enlisting now in the United Kingdom Armed Forces? Like, well, I didn't quite understand even what was going on. But then you go from
Right.
like just not knowing to knowing and knowing well on Air
Mhm.
Force, but also as just being an adult in general. Um,
Yep.
so it really molded and shaped me big time. So so right now you are an instructor over at the schoolhouse for ground transportation, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you
Uh,
teach in the schoolhouse?
so the schoolhouse actually has three courses. So we have our apprentice course where the new airmen coming out of basic comfort technical training tech school. So we have that main course. And about 3.5 years ago, we stood up two supplemental courses for NCOs and senior NCOs.
Oh
So our
wow.
first supplemental course is what's called TVOE. So it stands for Training Operation Validation and Examiner. And what that is in a nutshell is we work with the Department of Transportation and we teach our Air Force members how to drive a commercial motor vehicle, whether it be a tractor trailer, a bus, a heavy straight vehicle like a dump truck or front loader, things like that, that on the civilian side would be considered a commercial motor vehicle.
Hmm.
Now, when you go to like the DMV and you go to get your license, like you go and you take the test and a stranger jumps in your car and they make sure you can drive. We are teaching GT members how to actually conduct the examination. So they're going to be the ones giving the test and be the stranger in the vehicle, make sure they can do that just with a commercial motor vehicle.
Oh
So
wow,
that's
that's really
one
cool.
of so that's one of the supplemental courses. And then the other supplemental is what we call an NCOIC course or a superintendent's course. So folks who are, tech sergeants, new masters come through and we teach them how to actually run a ground transportation element or a section or a shop and teach them everything they need to know to better prepare them to actually do that job. So as my time here, it's a 3-year gig. I extended for a fourth year and I'm currently at 3.5 years. And in my time here, I've taught all three courses.
Wow.
So it's been a great experience. So we got really
Wow.
lucky on
Do
this
do
one.
you, do you have an assignment now?
Not yet. It is coming down the pipeline within the next 4 months. I should be notified of where I'm going.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'm looking
That's
forward to
exciting.
that.
It's always an exciting time. Yeah. So, what is the
Yeah, I'm excited.
typical excuse me, for the someone coming out of basic training into tech school? What does the typical day look like for them?
So a typical day for a new airman coming in straight to tech school. Tech school is 30 academic days for a 3 level, what they would be. So they're going to spend about six weeks here at Fort Leonard Wood as far as in class and learning all the material. And then day to day, so they'll wake up usually around 4:30 to do PT. And they have certain days for PT. They'll go do that. Go back to the room, get ready for school. They'll show up to school by like 7:30. We start class 7:50, and we work until lunch. We have a block schedule as they go through the 30 academic days. So we got blocks 1, 2, 3, and 4. Block 1 is basic information like, hey, we break down Air Force structure all the way from half level, headquarters level, all the way down to the wing. And we break down from the wing all the way down to where they actually work in the shop. and
That's
just
great.
try to paint that picture of how the Air Force actually works in the chain of command, and then where they fit into that, and then where GT fits into that, and the mission that we do. Then they move into block 2, which is more information, but we throw some more hands-on stuff at them. This is where we'll teach them how to like jumpstart a vehicle, how to change a tire, like a single wheel. And then we teach them how to change a dual wheel tire, like you would see on a tractor trailer or a regular trailer. More hands-on stuff. And then this is where we actually get them behind the wheel. So we like to do crawl, walk, run. So we don't know, these individuals coming, in. We have to make the assumption that the biggest thing they have driven so far is a Honda Civic type of vehicle. And we're going to be putting them in a 44-passenger bus. So we're going to start small and work our way up. And then we're going to throw them in a 15-passenger van, do some maneuvers, take them on the road, and then show them how to properly inspect each vehicle that they get in according to the DOT, or what we call the Commercial Motor Vehicle Standard. So that's block 2. Block 3 is our forklift section. So we're going to teach them how to drive forklifts. We're going to teach them how to secure cargo chains and straps. We have 3 different types of forklifts that we're going to teach them here. So a 4K, so 4,000 pound capacity, 4K. It's a bit smaller of a forklift. Then we go to a 10K standard, which is a little bit bigger. Then we have what's called a 10K AT, and AT stands for all terrain. So they have these big, huge mud tires on them. You sit up really high. That thing's really fun to drive. The airmen seem to love driving that.
That's cool.
Again, we got some courses and like a little maze they can drive through. They really enjoy that. So that wraps up like block 3. And then block 4 is like the bread and butter. And it's bus operations. And that's where we really hammer home the CMV inspection, because that is a true commercial motor vehicle. And we teach them what's called basic control skills. And it's all backing maneuvers. And we have a couple courses set up where all they do is just learn how to move that vehicle backwards in a safe confined space. Then we'll go ahead and take them over the road. And they spend about 108 hours total in block 4 as far as like learning and then actually hands-on and driving. And then that's their typical day here at the schoolhouse. And once they complete block 4, they're ready to graduate, and we'll send them off to the career field, ready to be a productive member of ground transportation.
Wow. So at the conclusion of block 4, I assume there's an end of course test. Is that an actual driving practical, and also maybe Department of Transportation kind of written tests?
Yeah, there are. So after each block, we have what's called a block test, which is a written test. So
Okay.
they'll go and they'll do the written test, and if they pass, they'll move on to block 2, block 3, so on and so forth. But after every block, it's a written test. We do have what's called hands-on progress checks. We call them PCs, that they do have to pass prior to even conducting the block test.
Okay.
So, and we haven't had too many fail. I mean, if we're going to be honest, like not everyone's cut out for GT, driving a big motor vehicle. And in those scenarios, we look at what's the best option for the Air Force. If it's a retrain, or if they need to go somewhere else, a different career field, we'll let Air Force handle that. And we're like, hey, this guy doesn't seem like a good fit for GT. Let's see where else you can put him. But I haven't had too many of those.
So what are some of the challenges that students have in tech school?
Challenges? The biggest one I see the most is within block 1, because it's just like drinking from a fire hose of ton of information, and they're just like holding on. So as soon as like they get like good study habits going and they figure out, hey, this is what tech school is like, then they do a lot better. But it's that first initial shock, like, oh, this is so much information. I really got to understand this stuff. And that's why I'd hammer home, like, ask your instructor as many questions as you need to. Like that's what they're there to get paid for. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
So make them work. Have them break it down to you. Make it make sense to yourself. But that's like the biggest challenge is in block one, that initial shock.
So when you graduate tech school, I assume you get your assignment pretty quickly while you're in tech school, especially with a shorter tech school, 6 weeks, roughly 30
They do.
academic days.
So individuals I'm seeing now, I've seen folks show up day one of class already knowing where they're going.
Wow.
AFPC works, pretty fast in that situation, but by block three, normally is when they'll have an assignment. They'll know where they're going, and they can start like making plans and
Yeah.
researching what it's like over there or wherever they're going.
So is the tech school, is that a joint school?
No, it is not. It's strictly Air Force. We only teach Air Force students, but we do work alongside the Army, the Marines, and the Navy. All their transportation career fields are here at Fort Leonard Wood for all the branches. So that's pretty neat. So just
Okay, cool. So
talking with them, see how they do business.
gotcha. Yeah. So it's good to get those blends right on to get different perspectives.
Yeah.
In looking at the career field page on the website, it seems like that there's a lot of possible assignments for you guys, right?
There are a lot of assignments. I think there's 77 in total. I could be wrong, but yeah, there are a lot of places you can go. Everyone needs, people moved or cargo transported, and that's what we do as a career field. And it seems like every installation needs that. So yeah, there's a possibility. Go anywhere in the States. There's a ton of options overseas. Yeah, it's endless.
So can you walk
You
us
have a
through
desire to go overseas?
Can you walk us over through some of the your kind of assignment process? Kind of where have you been stationed at?
So when I went through tech school, got notification saying I was going to RAF Lakenheath over in England. So that was my first duty assignment. Spent 2 years over at Lakenheath. I got orders from Lakenheath to Cannon Air Force Base. That's in New Mexico. I spent 3 years there, and I did what's called a BOP, base of preference. So I got a BOP out of Cannon to Little Rock Air Force Base, and I spent about 5.5 years at Little Rock.
Okay.
And then this job came open for instructor duty, and now I'm here at Fort Leonard Wood as an instructor.
Oh, wow. So is Cannon does everyone get base of preference coming out of Cannon?
No, it's something that you have to apply for, and
Okay.
Base of preference is. I know they stopped the program for career airmen. So like first term airmen still have that option to BOP, but once you're a career airman, that's no longer on the table as of now.
Okay. So whenever you get to your first duty location, true to most Air Force career fields, they rely heavily on OJT, I assume. So can you kind of walk us through whenever someone steps foot on their new installation, kind of what that would look like and kind of what their day-to-day would look like?
Yeah, as far as ground transportation, show up to your first duty station after tech school, you're going to be enrolled into what's called upgrade training. So you just graduated tech school, you have your 3 level, and now you're going to be working towards your 5 level. And that's going to consist of what we call CDC's Career Development Course. So it's like in the books, basically what you've learned in tech school, but it just goes a little bit more in depth. So you're going to read that. You're going to take a couple tests on that. That's part of your upgrade training to your 5 level.
What's the typical timeline and how many volumes do you guys have?
So we have 2 volumes for our 5 level, and the time frame was within a year.
Okay.
And that's for upgrade training as a whole. That's average. So they have more time to do so, but the average time it takes someone to complete that is about a year.
Okay.
They're going to start training on what we call rollback wrecker and wrecker operations. So if anyone's ever had their car break down and that big tow truck comes, we do that operation for the Air Force as well. They're going to get trained on that vehicle, and then they're going to get trained on tractor trailer as well, because we already pushed them through 44 passenger bus and forklift, so they should be ready to operate those straight out of tech school. Then they just have to focus on wrecker and tractor trailer.
And that is specifically part of the 5-level upgrade, or is that base dependent? Just your typical, you got to get certified on these vehicles.
That's generic across the board. So every base that you go to has a different mission with different requirements. We call that home station training, and it's going to be specific to that location. So you're going to have some of that as well, but it's nothing major like a different vehicle. It's all going to be wrecker, tractor trailer, or a type of.
So I've always been kind of curious, are all these vehicles that you get certified on, and it sounds like that even during at the schoolhouse, you guys do the DOT kind of train the trainer certifier requirements on that. So do all these certifications on these vehicles translate over to the civilian world, DOT side?
Yeah, they're actually working on that right now. So I think 17 states in the United States honor our government driver's license. So if you have a commercial motor vehicle on your driver's license, military-wise, they'll do a one-for-one swap. Now, the rest of the states are in the process of honoring that. They got to do some litigation, but it's looking like they're going to go that route. And there's a list on the website that we. Yeah, it's a great career opportunity outside of the Air Force. You know, you're going to get something from the Air Force, a skill and, a certification.
Wow, that's yeah. So in my short amount of time that I was with FEMA, about 7 years, that we discussed a little bit before the push and record. So part of the requirement was that we had to get our Class A CDL. Okay. So we actually they sent us over to a truck driving school, and that was nerve-wracking. So I was in Denver, Colorado at the time, so we had to do mountain training and everything. That was extremely nerve-wracking. When they start off the course saying that we're going to teach you how to parallel park a semi-truck, I'm like, that's impossible. I can't even do that with my Honda Accord or Civic. You know what I mean? Like, it's just mind-boggling. So is that the kind of stuff that you guys teach?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we mirror the CDL standard. Obviously, there's a civilian side and the Air Force side, and they kind of meet in the middle. Air Force tracks things a little different, but as far as hands-on, this is how we're going to train. It completely mirrors the civilian side.
That is so cool. So you can come out of the Air Force with let's say you wanted to go drive a truck for a living, go over the road, and you can come out of the Air Force with that certification. It's just your basic baseline certification, right?
Yeah, definitely. And airmen get that after a year of OJT.
With a ton of experience.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's really cool. I didn't realize that it translated directly over. I thought that there would have to be some sort of long application process you got to do once you leave or whatever the case may be. But that's pretty cool that they're starting to mirror it all up.
Yeah, and it's really like here in Missouri, I know they do a one-for-one swap. So literally I can take my government license to the DMV and I'll pay here it's $50. I'll pay the $50 for a CDL license, and it's a one-for-one. Yeah, it's that easy.
That's great. So, so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of training initially, just trying to get certified on the wrecker and the I want to call it the semi, but you called it something else. Yeah, you could
tractor trailer,
Class A, basically, right? Yeah, tractor trailer. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but after that or during that, I imagine that probably coincides. Is there anything else you do kind of day to day outside of the training?
So actual missions, each base is going to have its own different mission. So you can go to, Lake and Heath and do, some stuff here. You can go to Cannon, do a whole list of other things over there, mission specific. But as far as our bread and butter, we do what's called air crew. So we'll pick up pilots and take them out to the aircraft so they can go fly, whether they're doing missions or whether they're training. That's part of our job, our day-to-day. We also do what's called documented cargo. Documented cargo is basically you're picking up parts from the warehouse and you're taking them to like back shops where these folks take these parts and they fix the aircraft. So you can kind of think of us like FedEx or UPS, or someone buys something from Amazon, we deliver. But instead of purchasing from Amazon, these parts are actually fixing an aircraft so they can fly and conduct a mission. We do a licensing program. Usually GT is the licensing authority for that specific location. No matter where they go, when installation is, ground transportation will be the licensing authority. So we're also a DMV in a sense. We have a dispatch section. We have obviously a training section that new airmen will be assigned to when they show up. That's the main bread and butter that we do. And then again, depending on what base you go to, you can have a lot of aircrew with not much dock cargo. You can have a lot of dock cargo with not a lot of aircrew. It really just depends on the mission.
So at a typical base, we can use Lake Neath as an example. How many specialists do you have within your guys' shop typically? Like how much depth is that? Is it small, or is
an average shop is around 30 people, from the lowest ranking airman to the highest ranking, senior NCO. Usually the majority of the people there are, 3 levels, 5 levels, senior airman, staff sergeant, and below. And then, further you go up in rank, the fewer of them are there. Obviously, some bases are, have more manning. I know Ramstein in Germany, they have about, I don't want to misquote that, I think 60 to 90 individuals out there because they have a huge,
pretty large base, right?
They need
yeah,
they need the manning for that. So, but I'd say an average shop, like stateside, 30 to 40 individuals.
So what are some common misconceptions, either from new airmen coming in or from other Air Force members that are kind of viewing you guys from the outside? What are some common misconceptions, do you think?
The biggest one that I see, especially being a tech school instructor, like day one students will come in and they're asking about convoys. Now, convoys was a deployment mission we were doing way back in the day, from 2008 to 2011, I believe, is when they cut convoys off. But they'll come in and hey, are we still doing convoys? I'm like, no, convoys aren't a thing anymore. So they're getting that information from somewhere. But we haven't done convoys since 2011, and I don't believe that they'll be coming back. Again, I could be wrong. I don't make decisions around here. But as far as I'm aware, we won't be doing that anymore. Okay. That's like the common misconception that they come in with, oh, convoys. But we haven't done that in a while.
What is the do you guys currently have any kind of deployment tempo? Are you guys deploying right now? I know it seems, we're kind of at a time of peace, right? So
yeah, actually it seems like the deployment tempo is actually ticking up a little bit. They came up with this new program called AF4 Gen, but deployment tempo, yeah, it's ticking up, but as far as what you're actually going to be doing in the deployment environment is going to be pretty close to what you're doing stateside or home station. So again, documented cargo, taking aircrew out, maybe transporting folks, moving cargo. That's basically what you're going to be doing in a deployed environment. Same thing you're doing home station, what you do on a normal base anyway.
Okay, so what about the other type of vehicles that you could get certified on once you go past your 5 level, go past the wrecker and the tractor trailer?
Anything past that, so that's those wrecker and tractor trailer, bus, forklift, that's all standardized. All GT members have that on their license. Now, depending on what installation you go to, they might have different vehicles of said category, but in a different weight. So, for example, when I was at Little Rock Air Force Base, they had what's called an M series wrecker, or military style wrecker. It was up armored, and it had a boom, and it had a whole bunch of extra stuff on it than a normal wrecker. But we got trained on that, so not everyone has that type of vehicle, but it just depends on what base they go to. And we see the variation mostly in wrecker.
Okay.
Because all tractor trailers are pretty much the same, all buses are pretty much the same. It's that wrecker that usually changes. So you can go from a like 18-ton wrecker, 16-ton, 20, 24, and have all sorts of different attachments on it. Boom, wheel lifts, all that kind of stuff. But that's what really changes from base to base.
In your opinion, what, and generally speaking too, because I know have to be painting with a broad brush for a question like this, but what are some of the pros and cons of your career field?
My personal opinion, pros, like this is honestly what made me stick with GT, is the people. Like I love the people in this career field. It's like a huge melting pot of individuals. They all come from different walks of life, and honestly, they're just cool people. They're really cool. Like they're laid back. You know, we get the job done. If we can have fun doing the job, we're about that. But we're going to get the job done. As far as cons, I don't know. Cons is a hard one because what might be a con for me might be a pro for you.
Absolutely.
But I would just say like this is like it's manual. I wouldn't say it's manual labor, but like you're not sitting behind a desk. You're out. You're on your feet. You're actually doing stuff, tying cargo down, transporting people. Once you get further in your career, like staff, tech, master, senior, like they're going to put you behind a desk. But if you're expecting to be put behind a desk, straight out of tech school, like that's probably not going to happen. I mean, that might be a con, but depending on what that individual, is considers a con.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. So that's actually really good if you can't think of many cons. So I assume that probably with an office of probably about 30 people, that I assume that would probably be pretty tight knit for sure.
Definitely.
And that's I'd said it before in other episodes, but that it's the brotherhood that you have within your career field, but then also within the Air Force. And I probably even suspect, I can't speak from experience because I've never been in other services, but it's copy and paste from other services, that it's hard to find on the outside. If it could probably be argued that it's near impossible to try and find that on the outside. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
That you
and there definitely isn't.
Yeah. And I feel like that I've even being a civilian, right, in the Army, and in the Air Force, that you're still on the outside looking in, even though you're within the organization. You're not wearing the uniform, so you're not an insider, so to speak. So I think that's probably what I miss the most about the Air Force in general. So it's cool that you guys have that depth. Yeah, 110%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely a pro in my opinion. Just tight-knit group, especially if you are overseas. So that just adds another level to it. So if you go overseas, like the shop you are in, like that is quote unquote your family. That's who you are relying on.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis. And you get really close with those individuals. Like you make some lifelong friends. I mean, not just overseas, but like in the Air Force in general.
So Derrick, let me pull on that string just a little bit more because I agree with you. But why? Why do you think that is overseas more prominently as opposed to stateside?
There's an atmosphere of like, you're not alone, but like, so say you come straight from tech school, obviously you've never been overseas and you're relying on these people, ground transportation. Hey, they're going to come pick you up from the airport. They're going to get you, a room, somewhere to sleep. Like you're relying heavily on these individuals. Like you don't know them, but they're going to take care of you. So they're like right off the bat, like stepping out, like helping you out just because you have GT on your shoulder, just because your identifier is GT, like they're going to help you out. So we might consider ourselves like redheaded stepchildren, but we're going to take care of our own, especially in an overseas environment, because they know you don't have anything to fall back on. So they're not going to let you fall. So that's my opinion on it. That's my view on it.
Yeah, that's actually I absolutely agree. So when you're overseas, right, you're American in a foreign country and you're an outsider from the beginning. So I think that natural gravity pushes you closer and closer together, right? Um, and
Mm-hmm.
and when you say you rely on each other, you're right, absolutely right. It's all the good times and the bad times. Good times, there's a lot of barbecues. The
Mm-hmm.
bad times, there's I need to be picked up from
Oh
the
yeah.
hospital, or get wisdom teeth pulled out, or whatever the case may be, a death in the family, right? Um,
Right.
so that's cool. I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper on that one. So
Yeah.
usually I'd ask what skills and certifications you get coming out of this to translate into the civilian world. But this is probably one of the unique career fields that there's like a direct equivalent on the outside, right?
Yeah. There is. It's like right out the gate. You get certified, and you can actually finish your enlistment and go civilian side. Drive a Class A vehicle for a company. I mean, if you plan on staying longer, there's definitely more opportunities for you. Like I
Yeah.
said, we have that TVOE course here at the schoolhouse, and if you get certified through that, you're actually an examiner now to like have work at the DMV for civilians. Those folks wanting to get a CDL. I've seen folks retire after 20 plus years, and they're managing the distribution for a large company with like a 150
Hmm.
vehicle fleet, and they're just managing just because they have the experience.
That's awesome. So it sounds like this would be a really good career field to put on someone's list if they're it's like, should I stay in the Air Force forever or just do 4 years or 6 years or whatever the case may be on their enlistment, just to kind of get that experience, that Air Force experience. But it sounds like that because you get a direct skill, life skills, but also certifications coming out, but also a career opportunity if you decide to stay in. Plus the camaraderie within your
Exactly.
guys' career field. That's awesome.
Yeah, and just to add, like we're in the logistics career field. We are a logistics career field, and any business that's going to pay you money like needs logistics to make their profit. So with you having a logistics background, it may be in transportation, but the more you work up in ground trains, you're going to be more into that management side of the house of logistics. So that also translates, civilian side.
Derek, is there anything that you think that I'm missing, a question I didn't ask, or that you think would be valuable for someone who's thinking about coming in this career field?
I mean, if you enjoy driving,
Yeah.
definitely, starting off, like if you enjoy driving, you know, put it on your list. Give it a shot. Um, as far as like generalized coming into the military, it's going to make you a better person regardless of where you're at now.
Yeah.
You might
Yeah.
think, I got my stuff together. The military will show, Air Force will show, hey, like we're going to get you right. So I've definitely appreciated that. I thought I had
Yeah.
my stuff together, basic training, tech school, and then just living a life in this, military lifestyle. Like, okay, I'm set for success on the outside. So, I mean, that's my only advice, and just to, keep in mind.
That's awesome. So I think you kind of hit it on it already, but I'd be kind of curious to go a little bit deeper on it. So if your child, sibling, cousin, nephew, a stranger off the street came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about enlisting in the Air Force," what is it that you think that they would? What words of advice would you give them in how to be successful in the Air Force?
I would definitely tell them, do it. Do your research, as much as you can. So if like you're gonna pick a job, whether it be ground transportation or not, dive deep into it, see what you're getting yourself into, you know, and hang on for the ride. I definitely don't have any negatives about anyone joining or coming into the military. They're going to be a better person at the end of it, regardless of their situation. There's a lot of life skills, like outside of the career field, that the military gives you on a daily basis that you can apply, like whether you get out, retire, whatever your decision is. I have nothing negative to say about it. I full go on it. I would do it again if I had the opportunity.
Yeah, I would too. It's cool that we're lined up a lot on our view in the Air Force. So even on the outside looking in, 7.5 years active and 2 years reserve, but like I owe the Air Force a lot. Like it's given me a lot of stuff. Like all the jobs that I've had on the outside, security clearance. I was in the reserves when I was active duty when I met my wife. In the reserves when we got married. We had military health care when we had our first child, and friendships for life, a network to tap into on the outside. So the Air Force has given me so much, and I would agree that it doesn't even make a difference what career field you come into. Like the Air Force is going to make you a better person in general, especially if you come in with the right mindset and be teachable. Then even more so.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Open mindset, like you just sit back, relax, try to take everything in, and then take knowledge you do have, act on it. Yeah, 100%.
That's great. Derrick, I really do appreciate your time and coming on the show and talking about ground transportation, man.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So good luck on your next assignment. Hopefully in the next 4 months you'll get a nice Guam assignment or something like that. And let your hair semi-grow out within Air Force standards.
Right. I appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, you take it easy.
All right, you have a good one.